Alexander Alaoui joins me now. You are the Director for Sustainable Investment at Samsung Partners, and you were involved in the panel earlier on at the forum today, talking about sustainability and finance, and those two words almost in the same sentence. Sustainability is a guiding principle for you. Give me your experience on that, first of all, Alexander.
True. So I think you're right. I mean, usually you wouldn't bring these two words together. I think what happened over the past years is that people, the end investor, has increasingly asked the questions, how can I sort of do the financial work I do, how can I invest, how can I spend my money, and still sort of stick to my moral principles, as is sustainability. And I think what I've been talking a little about during the discussion was that what happened over the past years is that we ask a different set of questions when we look at companies. So we don't look only at the financial side of a company. We don't only look at how is it currently shaped, its business model, but how will it evolve in the future, and will it be sustainable, i.e. will it mitigate risk, will it bring in new profits from new business opportunities?
How much of a step change is this within the financial sector? We know things like ESG investing is certainly fashionable. We also know that there's an awful lot of activism within asset management, for example. You know, that there is this demand for corporations to step up to that environmental ask.
You're right. I think, at least for Germany, that's the case. Sustainable finance as a topic has been around for, I think, 20 years. But what we've seen during the past 3 years is that it sort of created a whole new dynamic. And I think the reason is that you talked about the ESG triangle, so to say, and you have this topic of climate change, which is sort of kicking outside of this triangle, giving this topic a whole new sort of dynamic. And the reason being is that climate change has a whole different sort of level of materiality than other ESG topics. Climate change we can feel, we can see the floods, we can see the droughts, we can see how companies are impacted. For example, in 2013, when a huge sort of a storm hit the southern Asian coast, Samsung was affected by that, and this had cash flow implications. So I think this is one of the reasons why we see this type of dynamic in the financial community, and this is why so many asset managers are stepping up.
Is it enough? Because what's one of the themes, action. We all agree there's urgency, but action, it needs to happen now. You mentioned that, for example, the Paris Accord is there, but CO2 emissions are still rising. But that's a legally binding framework. More does need to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, fully agree. I think, no, it's not enough. I think what we're currently doing is a fraction of what needs to be done. To give you an example, to set in place the Paris Agreement, or to actually act in accordance to this agreement, we have to reshift funds of a magnitude of 16.5 trillion. So, and what the companies or countries over the past years have done is they put in money of the magnitude of 1.5 trillion. So it's a fraction of actually what needs to be done. I think the financial community has been quite successful in sort of removing the worst assets, which means divesting out of coal, oil and gas. Yeah, there has been a sort of dynamic movement. That's okay. But where are we going to put the money into? ESG is not about just removing the bad ones, but really investing in the good ones. And I don't think we have reached yet the mainstream.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because also the effects of climate change, they permeate far more than the floods and the droughts that we see. The volatility isn't just in the weather, it's in currencies as well, in yields, in business. So the urgency is there. Our theme is next generation. So what of the future then? Are you optimistic in terms of looking at how sustainability and finance can work together? Because the next generation certainly do understand the need for action and that sense of a race against time.
True, I am optimistic. If you look at how this whole thing happened, how this whole thing started, it was actually students rising up and sort of creating the social movement called divestment in the US, and it flipped over to Europe as well. So what we have to understand is that change won't come out of the financial industry. It will come not out of the governments or the parliaments, it will come out of the streets. And so I'm really hopeful with regards to the new generation. But I think we do not have much time left. And not only that, I think key patterns of how we analyze companies, of how we do finance haven't changed. For example, we still look at the quarterly results of companies. But this is at odds with the climate risks. So, for example, the physical risks of climate change that could impact companies, they will materialize in 10 to 30 years. Those risks are currently not priced into the asset prices. Why? Because we only look at quarterly prices. So I think we really have to change key patterns within the financial industry and also within the financial education. And I think this could be the biggest lever for the next generation to sort of demand a new financial science in a sense. But I am hopeful. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time.
Thank you.
Alexander, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the forum.
Thank you very much. Thank you.